right. Hi, everyone. I'm Moritz Heiden. I'm the co-head of digital innovation at Real Vision. I'm here today joined by Moritz Seibert, the other co-head of digital innovation at Real Vision, and David Garrett from Club dVIN, a NFT community that was brought to us by the Real Vision Pro Crypto community. And we wanted to talk a little bit about his project and what he has special in offer for Real Vision Pro Crypto members.
Hi, how are you, Moritz? Moritz, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time today. Should I do a quick intro of myself and the project?
Yes, that would be super helpful.
Sure. So I'm Dave Garrett. I was a tech entrepreneur in my early 20s. Sold my company when I was 28 and did the smartest possible thing that you can do with the proceeds from that, and went and bought a vineyard and a winery in Argentina, where I spent 10 years building a winery from scratch. We bought raw land, virgin land, nothing had ever been planted on it. And from the day that we invested our first dollar to the day that we earned our first dollar in revenue was 10 years. It's a long and complicated process, but I learned an awful lot in doing that. Went and opened our Asian business in Hong Kong for 2 years, and most recently, we bought a distressed property here in the Priorat in Spain, and we've been nursing that back to health for the last 5 or 6 years. So I've been really in the fine and investment grade wine space for about 20 years, and my as part of that, I met my co-founder in Club dVIN, who for about 10 years led BCG Digital Ventures. And during that time in 2017, he was one of the main architects for the Tracer project, which is De Beers diamond platform on the blockchain. So he spent from 2015 to 2018 putting every diamond on the planet onto a blockchain. And we took a lot of what he learned in creating that model with digital twins, NFTs, and have been applying it to the fine and investment grade wine space.
Great, super intro. Just out of interest before we dive into Club dVIN, so you purchased this Argentinian winery. I mean, that was an existing winery, I guess. It already was producing, because why does it take 10 years in order to get it back to production?
No. In Argentina, we bought virgin land. And so the land that we bought land in an area called the Uco Valley. We bought right next to, close to La Siete, which you may have never heard of, but it's a Michel Rolland project. Michel Rolland is one of the, probably one of the most famous wine consultants on the planet. And they 7 different French vineyards bought land in Argentina. We bought right next to them. And when the surveyor went and did the final survey for our project, the land was so rough, he had to do it on horseback. So it took us 2 years really just to level the property so that we could start planting vines. So it's a long process. 2 years to level, 3 years before you really get your first vintage, and then typically another 3 or 4 years in barrel and in bottle before you sell your first bottle. So it's a long-term business project, but which is why usually it's multi-generational. So it's been a lot of fun.
For sure. I mean, that's part of the fun. What's the name of the vineyard, if you don't mind sharing, and the label of the product?
Sure. It's called the Vines of Mendoza, and we produce. In any given year, we'll do around 300 unique fermentations, and produce somewhere on the order of 200 to 300 different unique labels. We make a lot of wine there. We have about 1,500 hectares under vine. Also have a great resort and spa. So if you ever go to Mendoza, we have a wonderful resort and spa and a Francis Mallmann restaurant. So it's a wonderful place.
Okay, great. Well, definitely put that on the list.
Sure.
Okay. So tell us about the idea, Club dVIN, and how that came about and where it is today and what you're looking to do.
Sure. So I've spent a lot of time with my co-founder talking about blockchain. I've been interested in technology. I was originally a tech guy and have been slowly bringing wineries around the world into tech over the last 20 years. We did some of the first direct-to-consumer business with the winery in Argentina. Built one of the first iPad wine lists, which is what we were doing in Asia. And as soon as we started talking about what you could do with digital twins and blockchain, I've always had a real interest in building community around wine, and my co-founder has always had a big interest in anti-fraud and anti-counterfeiting. And what we found is that the technology that we were looking at, the blockchain technology that we wanted to develop, really solves for both things. In the beginning, it solves for how do we disincentivize fraud and counterfeit in the investment grade and collectible wine space, which, if you've seen the movie Sour Grapes, some people say it's up to 10 or 15% of the market is counterfeit or fake wines. And what I've always wanted to do is figure out a way to bring winemakers and wine consumers closer together to build great experiences. I've done that my whole career, is build experiences around wine. And so the project that we've built, we think really does that. We've brought a lot of innovative people from the wine industry on board.
Great. So have you launched this yet? Is this already live, or are you looking to launch it?
So we had a soft launch back in February, and we've been doing a lot of events, bringing winemakers on the platform. We just had an event last week on Thursday with Carmelo Anthony, who's an NBA player in the States. He just launched his first wine, which is a Chateau Neuf de Pape. Only 2,000 bottles, but we had a dinner with him, and we did NFTs for we're doing NFTs for all of his wine. We did NFTs for all the people at that dinner. Our public launch for the club is the 26th, so I guess a week from yesterday, which we're very excited about. But I guess for the last month or so, we've been bringing people on the platform on a friends and family basis. So we started in February with our founding members. We have about 50 founding members who are, again, the most innovative people in wine from around the world. Since then, we've been bringing on friends and family members, and we were very, very pleased to hear from the folks at Real Vision that about participating in the friends and family process. So kind of pre-minting before our public launch next Sunday. It's really coming up.
Moritz doesn't know that yet, but I actually already pre-minted two for the Moritz and Moritz team. So we kind of participated already in the private mint that was going on, I think 2 weeks ago or something like that. And also some of the members in the community did that already. But now we want to open up that to a bigger audience, to the whole audience of Real Vision Pro Crypto. So that makes this, of course, very exciting for us.
How could one ever say no to becoming part of a wine club, right? I mean, that's the drink that we enjoy drinking in the evenings and maybe late afternoons as well, every once in a while. So clearly it sounds like a good thing to do. Tell us a little bit about how the club actually works. Like,
Sure.
What does the NFT actually do? What type of rights does it possess? How does it engage the community, etc.?
Sure. Do you want me to run through? I have a brief presentation. Would it be helpful if I ran through that?
Yeah, I think a couple of slides briefly, that could be very helpful as well.
Sure. So so this is a Club dVIN. We're building, what we think we're doing is building the world's greatest wine community. And what I always tell people is wine has worked the same way for about 1,000 years. Some people say it's worked the same way for 8,000 years. But the incentives in the wine industry right now, what it does is it creates barriers between the winemaker and the wine consumer, because that's the people that sit in the middle earn all the rents, and they earn those rents by creating intimidation in the market, by making it opaque, by creating elitism. And so what we've done is created Club dVIN to really change that, to create a way for where we're incentivized to put winemakers and wine consumers together. So the club benefits are really simple. Access is the most important thing. Our founding members, and as we go through, you'll see along the bottom of the slides, all of our founding members. We have cult winemakers, masters of wine, a bunch of master somms and rockstar somms. And the point is that we know everybody. And so by being a member of this club, we'll only have 5,000 Genesis members. Being a member of the club, you'll have access to those founding members. And because we know everyone, now you know us. And get access to some of the greatest wine, not only the greatest wine experiences, but just access to glow up your wine game is what we say. You also get access to rare wine offers, and you'll see a little bit later on why wineries want to work with us. But every winery that we talk to wants to work with us, offer us rare wine drops, whether it's from their libraries or side projects, wine that you just wouldn't be able to buy anywhere else, that comes through our projects. Over time, we're also working with Sotheby's, for example. We're working with the Robert Parker collection. Robert Parker has a personal collection of about 35,000 bottles collected over 50 years. We're putting a lot of that wine through the project and attaching digital corks. And over time, working with wineries to not only do direct-to-consumer sales for their primary offerings, but then also futures. Wineries that want to offer allocations or want to offer futures for future, or let people purchase future vintages. We're building a platform for that as well.
Dave, can I interrupt you real quick? Maybe two questions.
Sure.
For the benefit of everybody, what exactly is a digital cork? Maybe you can give us a definition of what it is that you mean when you say digital cork. That's one.
Sure.
And the other question I'd have is, you're saying every winemaker, every exclusive fine wine, high grade winemaker, they'd like to work with you. So when you think about, say, an Opus One or something like that, I mean, they have a fan base already. If they had some, side projects and some secret bottles or like future production, they probably wouldn't have an issue of selling that to their Napa Valley friends and the people in the area. And
Sure.
none of that unfortunately comes to Munich. So I'll have the shorter end of the stick and I can never get one. So, but why are they keen to work with you, given that they already have a relatively large fan base and audience that they can essentially, and they're like, those guys are probably price elastic as well. Like, whatever the price is, they'll just pay because they are Opus One fans. Or
Sure.
Use the other winemakery, same thing.
So actually, the reason that they want to work with us is because of the digital cork. And I'll give you a brief overview right now, and a little bit later on in the presentation, you can see some examples of it. But a digital cork is really a digital twin that attaches to a physical bottle. So your digital twin NFT, we call it the digital cork NFT. It provides a lot of kind of interesting things, both for the consumer and for the producer. So for the consumer, it's a deed of ownership. It's a certificate of authenticity. This bottle came from that winery. It's also a chain of custody, which is a huge disincentive against fraud or counterfeiting, but also ends up being a really big incentive for having more perfect provenance. And then it provides a royalty in the secondary market. And the royalty in the secondary market is a way for those wineries to participate in the value creation in the aftermarket. So the wines that we're talking about, whether it's Opus One or any of the kind of collectible and investment grade producers, when the wines leave their wineries, they usually leave ex chateau for somewhere between $100 and $120. And then over the course of 15 years, roughly, again, on average, those wines will change hands anywhere between 3 and 4 times, usually doubling in price every time. So by the time it reaches the final consumer, the end consumer is paying about $850 for that investment grade or collectible wine. Now, all of that price appreciation, that all gets captured by the speculators and the auction houses and the other middlemen. And the winery doesn't get to participate in that at all. So by having the digital cork attached to those bottles, one, they get a lot of data, right? They get to see where their bottles are, when they're being traded in the aftermarket, and you'll see a little bit later, they even get to see when they're consumed. So that's really interesting. But they also get to participate when those wines are traded in the aftermarket. So they get a cut. And so financially, it makes a lot of sense for them to not only get that data, but then also to participate in the aftermarket sales.
That makes a lot of sense. I get it. Let me throw in an example and see if that would work. So say I purchase at Chateau a case of Opus One, and it's $100 to $120 a bottle. And I now get the NFT attached, the digital twin, the digital cork that comes with each of the bottles inside of that case. And say a year later, I sell it to Moritz for $200 a bottle.
Yep.
But we decide that we don't want to trade the NFT. I'll just, he's not interested in NFTs, or I sell it to my parents. They wouldn't even know what an NFT is, so they just want to drink the wine. They don't want to have anything to do with, the NFT or putting that onto a blockchain. And so kind of like you're losing the connection between the bottle and the NFT. Is that a possibility? Or, how do you ensure that they're connected?
No, 100% that's right. For sure, if you sell it to Moritz and Moritz just isn't interested in the NFT, then that will break the chain. Yes. The problem is that if Moritz then wants to sell it to somebody else, he's not going to get very much money for it, because the expectation will be that in order to avoid fraud and counterfeit, and in order to have that certificate of authenticity, Moritz is going to need to have that NFT, because that's going to be the expectation in the market. So if Moritz wants to sell it after you sell it to him, he's not going to make very much money for it. He's going to get a lot less than if he actually had the NFT. So that's one reason.
It's an incomplete.
Another reason is, yeah, that's right. The second reason is another piece of tech that we've developed, which is called the tasting token. And that's really kind of at the heart of what we do. So if you have the digital cork, which is kind of that digital twin NFT in your wallet, when you decide to open the physical bottle, then you can sign on to our platform using that wallet, and you can pull, when you open the physical bottle, you can pull the digital cork. And when you pull the digital cork, what you're doing is two things. One, you're nullifying the original NFT. You're updating the ledger for the original NFT, saying this bottle has been opened. It's no longer authentic, and there's one less of those bottles on the marketplace. The other thing it's doing is it's allowing you to mint new NFTs that we call tasting tokens. And tasting tokens they're actually soul-bound tokens. They're not available for trade. You can't transfer them or trade them. They are an authentic proof of experience that you have tasted that wine. You're also able to give it to up to 12 people that you open that bottle with. We're minting them on Polygon, so they're very inexpensive and very easy to create. I could do it for you right now in about 5 seconds. But what that does is it gives you as the consumer not only the ability to visualize and share your flex your wine journey or the great wines that you've tasted, but it also gives the winemaker the ability to provide you with incentives or rewards for collecting those tasting tokens. So the example that we give is, let's say you collect tasting tokens for Petrus. Let's say you're a big Petrus fan. Then you could collect 5 tasting tokens for Petrus, whether or not you own the bottle. Maybe you own the bottle, maybe your friend owns a different one, maybe you open one at a restaurant. But if you collect 5 tasting tokens for Petrus, then Petrus might want to invite you to a winemaker dinner next time they come to town. Or if you collect 10, then Petrus might invite you to the winery for a vertical tasting. And what we see in the future is your ability to sign on to Petrus's website using your wallet, and based on the NFTs in your wallet, you can increase your allocation of Petrus. You can purchase something out of the library that's special, or even maybe make a reservation to stay at the chateau the next time you're in Bordeaux. So what Petrus is able to do, because these are all authentic proof of experience, Petrus really knows that you're a fan, and they know that you're an ambassador, and then they can not only offer you rewards and incentives, but create community around their best fans.
Got it. This is interesting. In one way, what you're actually doing is you're introducing the concept of what's known as open interest in the futures markets to the wine market. To give you an example, so today, probably there's a good estimate as to how many bottles of Opus One 2015 are around and exist in the world. But nobody can really be sure, because somebody like me could decide to open that bottle tonight and not tell anyone about it, and then there's like one bottle less. If they're all running on blockchain rails, then it's like a real-time auditing of the number of bottles in circulation that are still available for drinking. So clearly, the last one standing, like if everybody has drunk their Opus Ones or whatever Rioja Altas, and if you have the last one, I mean, that is probably the one that's mooning, because there's only one. This type
that will never be perfect, but if you create the right incentives, you can have it be very close.
Very close, but it's definitely going to be better than what we have today, which is almost, I mean, apart from the auction houses, I mean, there's probably some assessment of how much stuff is still, going around in the market, but I mean, who's really the judge of that? I mean, it's impossible to do that.
Exactly.
Another point on the fraud and authenticity that you've mentioned. I mean, let's just say, because Moritz obviously is a good kindred guy of the two Moritzes, and so he's purchasing the bottle at Chateau, and then he sells it to me. But what he doesn't know is that I run a very dirty wine lab in my basement, and so I have the physical bottle now in my possession, and I take it down to the basement, and I take very good care, to kind of open the thing or put a needle through the cork and do whatever.
Sure.
There's gangs out there who are very good at that, right? Which is why you've said 15% of the wine in circulation might actually be fake wine.
Sure.
So how do you avoid that? I mean, you can't really avoid that, right? I mean, that business is still going to be around, and the NFT doesn't know anything about that either.
That's exactly right. And there's always there's a bunch of players out there that are working on different on-bottle tech that might help to circumvent some of those things, or might help to protect against some of those things. We work with all of those players. There certainly, every little thing that you can do might help a little bit, but really the answer is transparency at scale. Because here's the thing: if you do that, and then you sell the bottle to Moritz, and then Moritz sells it to me, and then I sell it to somebody else, and then they open the bottle and it ends up being fruit juice instead of wine in the bottle, there's a limited number of people that the FBI can go and look at, right? And even if it's just your wallet address, there's still a paper trail, right? Because you shipped that wine to Moritz, and then Moritz shipped that wine to me. So there's always going to be a way to create at least a better way for there to be enforcement over the kind of counterfeit and fraud for bottles. That
is a great point. You actually have eyes watching you, because the blockchain is forgiving and transparent forever.
Yeah, and it's not just that. So that's important, and there's certainly going to be a way for at least. It's a big disincentive against fraud and counterfeit. Now, certainly, someone's going to figure out a better way, and there's going to be a better mousetrap and then better mice, and that's going to happen forever. But I think that we can create huge disincentives certainly against casual fraud, or against the vast bulk of fraud. But where it really helps is the other side. So if you got on Wine Searcher today, for example, and looked for 2003 Chateau Palmer Alter Ego, you'd find that there's probably 200 or 300 bottles that are available on the marketplace in different places around the world. And they're all priced about the same. Some, maybe 5% more, maybe 5% less, depending on currency exchange, but they're all about the same. However, if you could go and look at those bottles and say, okay, this bottle has sat in a bonded warehouse for the last 19 years in Bordeaux, but this bottle had an owner in Hong Kong who then sold it to somebody in Dubai, who then sold it to somebody in San Francisco, who then finally sold it to somebody in London. Well, you're going to pay a lot more for that bottle that sat in a bonded warehouse for 19 years. So the price differential is going to create a huge incentive for people, at least that can see potentially trading that bottle in the future, to have much better provenance. And that really is probably what's going to defeat counterfeiting and fraud more than anything else, because that price differential is going to be huge.
That is absolutely correct. And I remember shipping some wines probably 10 years ago, visiting the Napa Valley. I mean, it cost a fortune to actually ship the stuff from the Napa Valley to, I was living in London, I think at the time, or no, in Germany already. But the wine doesn't get any better. When you put it on a ship for 6 weeks, and you don't know whether it's actually climate control and all these type of things. So, it's shaking around and all that, type of stuff. So I agree with you. If you can have a bottle of wine or a case of wine sitting untouched in a climate controlled bonded warehouse and it really doesn't move, that is worth a lot of money.
Sure. And then more importantly than that, your wine might be sitting in a bonded warehouse or even still sitting at the winery. More and more wineries are letting you purchase the wine, and they'll hold on to it for you. Yes. Until whoever actually, somewhere down the chain, maybe 5 or 6 owners from now, someone decides that they want to actually consume it. Then they use that NFT, they sign onto the winery's website, and they have the wine shipped to them. But the winery can just sit there for 15 years or 16 years. That said, if you have the NFT, you can have your virtual cellar that you can look at, that you can visualize, that you can share or flex with people. Like imagine if your wine cellar was a collection of NFTs that was part of your Instagram account. I'll tell you, there's a lot of wine collectors out there that are going to love it when they can have their best wines as NFTs in one collection, and then their tasting tokens as great wines that they've tasted in another collection.
Because you can have your collection in your pocket, right, and go to a restaurant, show it to your friends. Which is, today you can't do that. You have to invite your friends to your home and show them your basement. But not everybody can't do this every day.
And when you think about it from the winery's perspective, it's also great branding and storytelling for them, because right now all they get is a label, 7 by 11 centimeters on the front of a bottle. That's all of the branding and marketing opportunity that they have. Well, through NFTs, what we've done is done these 12 to 15 second videos that actually tell the story of the brand. So not only are you able to show off the wines that are in your cellar, in your virtual cellar, but each one of those individual NFTs are actually telling the story of the brand. So the brand, through you, is actually, you're becoming like an ambassador for that brand, which we think is also really exciting for the wineries, and another reason why they want to work with us.
Great, thank you, David. Let's maybe go on with your slides.
Sure. So I went through a bunch of this. One thing that I did miss talking about for as a club benefit is our events and experiences. And if you look at our website, you'll see that we're everywhere. We have local events in cities all over the world, from San Francisco to New York to London to Singapore. We also have pop-up events, tasting rare wines and minting NFTs for all kinds of whether it's wine events or crypto events around the world. We're doing an event. We have 2 events this week. One of them is for ETH New York. We're doing an event for our members and guests where we're opening some grower champagne and actually a bunch of really cool rare wines. And then we also have an event on Thursday in Bordeaux for it's Bordeaux Wine Week this week. But with the famous wine writer Jane Anson, we're opening a series of first growths for all of our early members at a very small VIP dinner in Bordeaux. So, and that's just this week. Next week we're doing one in Barcelona. We've got events in everywhere from Dubai to Austin to London and Singapore coming up over the course of the next few months. So those kinds of events, super fun, great ways for our members to get together, get to know one another, and for us to introduce them to cult winemakers and great wines from around the world. But we also have these kind of very special once in a lifetime events. One of our founding members is the founder and the wine director for the Bhutan Wine Company. And our first major global event is their harvest next year. It's their inaugural harvest. And we will be the first people from outside of Bhutan to ever set foot in those vineyards or to ever see them. That's going to be a super fun once in a lifetime event that we're starting to organize now, because it takes a long time. We get special visas to get into the country.
I didn't even know they had wine there.
They didn't. This is the first vineyard that's ever been planted there. But it was because so the founding member, he's a master of wine. There's only about 400 masters of wine in the world, and he was visiting and saw the soil, and he's also a partner at Deloitte. They did a 5-year study of the soil and microclimates in Bhutan and came back with pretty surprising results. They showed the results to the royal family and said, we think that you can make great wine here. And 6 years ago, they planted the first vines. So this is the inaugural harvest. They have, I think, 16 different vineyards, all at very, very different elevations. And we're gonna not only help them harvest, but also help them develop their harvest traditions. And we're really excited about it.
Amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And the idea is to have 1 or 2 of those kinds of events per year, where we just find there's the event that I really want to do in the next couple of years is in the Swartland in South Africa. There's a couple of vineyards in the Swartland that use rhinoceroses. They actually do like a rhinoceros rodeo to give important minerals back to the soil. And it's a really interesting and fun process that I'm trying to line up for 2024 for our members.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey. Cool.
So, and we can talk about things, content, exclusive education and entertainment for our members. We talked a little bit about digital corks. We talked a little bit about tasting tokens and how that works, the rewards and incentives, the data and community. I mean, the big thing to understand is wineries up until today were separated from their consumers by 15 years and 15,000 miles, right? Like the wine that you're tasting was made halfway around the world, a decade and a half ago. We're taking that winemaker and putting it in contact with the consumer at the moment of consumption. And that can be as simple as just saying, thanks for opening our wine, and I hope that it was great, to building these rewards and incentives and building community around their best customers. And that's great for the consumer, but for the winemaker, not only does it give them tons of data and a chance to connect with their consumers, but it really gives them a platform for the next generation. Because the next generation of wine consumers are the digital first or digitally native consumers. They're not going to buy wine the same way that I buy wine, or that my parents bought wine, or their parents bought wine, right? They're looking more for experiences, less stuff, more experiences. They're looking to have a connection with the important brands in their life. And these wineries, really for a number of years now have been trying to figure out how they're going to appeal to the next generation, to that digital first generation of wine consumers. And this really gives them a way to meet them where they live. And it's, we always say it's the first step towards the metaverse of wine. We're not really, we don't like to talk about that very much, but it really is, it's starting along that process, and giving the next generation of wine consumers a way to really engage with collectible and investment grade wine. So as I said, the wine industry's worked the same way for 1,000 years. We're building the platform for the next 1,000. We talk a lot about our core values: curiosity, generosity, and inclusivity. It's actually really important to us. That's why we're building this. We think that that wine for too long has been, elitism and intimidation. We really want to create something that's more democratized and more decentralized, and certainly disintermediated. And by bringing those consumers and the winemakers together, we think it makes everybody's experience better. Our roadmap, we're doing 5,000 members this year. Our Genesis members, there will only ever be 5,000 Genesis members. We're bringing 50 winemakers on the platform this year, and we're well on our way to 100,000 digital Cork tokens. Within 5 years, so each of our 5,000 Genesis members, including the Genesis members that we're setting aside for Real Vision, will have the ability to mint a new membership, a standard membership, every year for 5 years. And the reason for that is we want to grow the community organically. The idea is that you'll mint a new membership for a friend, or someone that you like to open wine with, and that's how we want to grow the community. We think within 5 years, Club dVIN will become a DAO. And the idea is to have 350 investment grade and collectible winemakers on the platform within 5 years. And then 10 years from now, we'll expand to wineries from all over the world. Anything that's considered a fine wine, a wine that's a special occasion to open, we hope to attach digital corks and tasting tokens to. And that's really the long-term business, is that very thin layer, attaching those digital corks and tasting tokens to every fine wine bottle on the planet. The offer that we're doing with Real Vision is very simple. It's this Friday. So 2 days before our public mint, we're offering, I believe it's up to 250 Genesis memberships and up to 50 global insiders, just for an allow list that's provided by Real Vision. We're offering at our friends and family rate, which is 0.75 ETH for Genesis and 1.5 ETH for global insiders. And then we have kind of a special offer for Real Vision, for our Real Vision members, which is we'll drop 2 bottles of champagne in your wallet within 48 hours after the mint. But we're working with a couple of really amazing, very rare grower champagnes, and we'll drop those tokens into your wallet. So you'll have your first digital corks within 48 hours. Now it's going to take us a little while to take delivery of the wine. Usually about we're saying 60 days. I think all that information will be on the pre-mint page. But the idea is that you'll get great wine, and we'll make the digital corks and the tasting tokens special commemorative NFTs that'll include some Real Vision branding as well. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity, and maybe also to point out for the members of Real Vision Pro Crypto that are on the allow list, but that already minted in the family and friends mint, we make available the same deal. Basically, they get the champagne as well, right? That kind of that way. There was a handful of people who immediately saw this and kind of thought, let's go and don't wait for Real Vision to kind of, or the community to take a vote or make a decision, just mint it. So those will be kind of receivers of the NFT, of the champagne as well. And there's nothing to do for them. Basically, we find out via the whitelist that we have. Yeah,
as soon as we get the whitelist, we'll make sure and put the tokens in, and everyone that's on your whitelist will get the tokens, whether they buy on Friday or if they've purchased in the previously.
This is absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Dave. I mean, I think, it just shows why this is so exciting at Real Vision and building, Real Vision 2.0, if you will, that, future platform where we bring communities together and just have interesting stuff to, talk about, share with each other, move forward. I mean, all of these things are developing so fast. This is exciting. Obviously, Moritz and I, we are on board.
Well, great.
Members of the community. So, hey, this is awesome. And, we wish you and us best of luck with that exciting project.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you as members, and appreciate you for taking the time. And we're really looking forward to having the Real Vision community on board as part of Club dVIN. We can't wait.
Super.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.